help their neighbors in need through a series we call Neighbors Helping Neighbors. Many of these stories involve the faith community and our Envision centers. Here today to tell us firsthand about one of these stories is Jose Ibarra, who serves as the Envision Center Director at the Envision Center at the Housing Authority in Gary, Indiana. Welcome, Jose.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes,
All right.
Jose.
All right, thank you, sorry about that. So, greetings everyone. My name is Jose Ibarra and I'm the Director of Resident Services at the Gary Housing Authority, which includes the Gary Envision Center. First of all, I would like to thank Secretary Carson and his administration for selecting Gary as one of the designated sites for the Gary Envision Center program and for allowing us to showcase the great work we're doing here in Gary, Indiana. Additionally, I would like to thank our HUD recovery team that has guided us and supported the Gary Housing Authority throughout these past years. Prior to the designation, the Gary Housing Authority looked at the Envision Center Foundation of providing a holistic approach which brings partners, stakeholders to better the lives of the residents within the pillars of opportunity of educational advancement, economic empowerment, character and leadership, and health and wellness. At that time, we decided to use the same foundation and call ourselves an Emerging Envision Center. Luckily, our field director, Kimberly Wise, and her team in the Indianapolis office heard about the dedication and commitment we had with our local partners where they were providing support and resources to our GHA residents. We were invited to submit an application to become an official HUD Envision Center, and after talking to my executive director, Mr. Julian Marsh, we agreed that there was a huge need for a community resource center to serve not just our GHA residents, but the whole city of Gary. We knew there was a strong collaboration of partners that would extend their services and support to our Gary residents. So thank you for allowing the Gary Envision Center to serve as a citywide model. Within our first quarter of operations, our partners committed to providing various workshops, even scheduled a citywide job fair and resource fair. Then COVID happened, and just like many providers and community-based agencies that we partnered with, we were faced with halting our operations. But that didn't mean our residents were able to do the same thing. Many of our community members were faced with a food shortage, and unfortunately, COVID made it worse. But in the middle of this pandemic, there was one group that continued to come together to help the families, and that was the faith-based community. One example is that of Pastor Curtis Whitaker from Progressive Community Church and Faith CDC. He has a community garden in Gary and was already feeding Gary residents, but because of the COVID pandemic, he knew he needed to do more. At that same time, Kimberly Wise brought to our attention that USDA had the Farmers to Families food program. Since restaurants were closed, farms were faced with a surplus number of products, and thanks to McFarland Food, they provided Gary weekly food giveaways to feed those that were impacted by COVID. She knew the strong partnerships we had with the faith-based community in Gary and was aware that we can come together and serve the whole city of Gary during these difficult times. I remember talking to Pastor Whitaker on the phone about the food giveaway, and his idea was very unique. He knew that our most vulnerable population, the seniors, had limited access to transportation, so driving up to get a food box was out of the question. Additionally, he knew because of COVID, the seniors needed to be protected. So his idea was, let's get everyone involved. Volunteers can deliver the food boxes to the seniors. He knew that Gary would come together, and we sure did. The planning time was short, and here's how it looked. As part of the food giveaway, the Urban League and its volunteers took names of seniors that needed the meal boxes delivered to the residences. Our local NAACP chapter, community-based agencies, the local fraternities and sororities, or known as the Divine Nine, gathered volunteers to deliver the food boxes to the seniors. GHA staff delivered to GHA residents, local churches received boxes to distribute to their members, and lastly, Gary residents were still able to drive up and pick up the remaining boxes. We had 4 successful food drives, over 700 boxes each week. This was done with volunteers. No money was needed, just helping hands and bodies. bodies that came together to help those that truly needed the help. There are many moving pieces to this food giveaway, but with the leadership of Pastor Whitaker, we pulled it off. I give kudos to one of my staff members, Marissa Goldman, for stepping up. She had been on the job for a week or so when asked to help with the food giveaway, because I was at home actually recovering from COVID. And kudos to the rest of the GHA staff for helping deliver the boxes to the GHA residents. We truly have some of the best team in this field. All in all, the Gary community, especially the faith-based community, really came together during these difficult times. So what's next? We're working on establishing the standalone Gary Envision Center, Community Resource Center. We acquired an old library and we're looking at using that building to create a one-stop shop so that our local, state, and federal partners can provide the services needed by our residents. The Gary Envision Center is a trusted entity that's really focused on empowering our residents. We strongly believe that our partnerships, which includes the faith-based community, will help us make a strong and positive impact with our Gary residents. Once again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to highlight the great work that's being done here in Gary through our Envision Center and our partnerships with the faith-based community. Thank you to my Executive Director, Mr. Julian Marsh, for allowing me to live my dream of creating this much-needed space for our Gary residents, and to my resident services team for their hard work and dedication. Together, we will restore and rebuild Gary and its residents. Thank you.